Welcome to the Simply Vegan podcast, brought to you by the team at Vegan Food and Living, the UK's best-selling vegan magazine. If you're new to the podcast, I'm the magazine editor, Holly Johnson, and my co-host, Molly Pickering, is our digital executive. We've both been vegan around 5 years and love bringing you all the latest news, reviews, and vegan chat every week. Today is the third episode of our cookery series, which we're running over the course of this month. Molly and I are chatting to Sharon Gardner, a cookery teacher from Made in Hackney. We were going to be talking to Katie Bescow about cooking with just a few ingredients. Unfortunately, Katie got COVID last week and still isn't feeling great. So get well soon, Katie. And we're hoping to catch up with her in next week's episode. But this week we are chatting to, like I said, Sharon Gardner, who is going to be sharing all her budget cooking tips. Things like, what time to go to the supermarkets to save money? Should we shop seasonally? Dried versus tinned, and all those things we need to just cut some of our outgoings when it comes to vegan food. Hi, Sharon. Welcome to the podcast. It's really good to have you on today. How are you?
I'm good.
You're a cookery teacher at Made in Hackney, but you're also a nutritionist.
So I'm actually a naturopath.
Ah, okay. So what does that involve?
So a naturopath, basically, we look at... if you imagine we are your alternative to your GP. So actually what we do is we look at someone. So if someone has an ailment or condition, we don't really work with the ailment or condition. We work with the individual with that condition. Yeah. So we're trying to reinstate healthy balance and, harmony, etc., into the body rather than work with the condition.
Yeah, because it's you've got to take into consideration everything, haven't you? Like what's going on in that person's lives and things like that. So
that's so interesting.
Thank you.
But today we're going to be talking about saving money, aren't we? Because do you want to kind of tell us what Made in Hackney do?
So Made in Hackney are a charity, but they're also an eco charity. So what they do is they look at not only how to eat healthily, but also for the health of the planet. And this is why they focus on plant-based and vegan foods in particular when they are working with the community or with masterclass, etc. So it's all about promoting this kind of healthy, well-being, individual groups of people and the planet.
And they also do kind of free food deliveries within the community, don't they?
Yes. That started right at the beginning of the pandemic, 2020. They just kind of got into action and decided, okay, people need to eat. We can provide a service. Let's do this. And they literally been doing it now for the past 2 years.
So are you kind of part of that, or are you more sort of on the cooking side of things, like teaching cookery?
I'm more of a teacher. I mean, I have looked into getting involved in the side of, the doing the meal prep, but it's just, I'm actually in another part of London to where Made in Hackney is. So sometimes it's a bit challenging to get across London to, be a part of that part. Yeah. Yeah. So doing the community classes, once or twice, courses over 6 weeks or 5 weeks works better for me at the moment.
Yeah. What sort of things do you cover in those courses then?
Wow. So it depends. So we can do anything from international, we can do anything. The last one I've actually just finished was a diabetic course. So we're specifically looking at how to use plant-based ingredients for diabetics. Okay. And the challenge there was obviously starch. We had to really look at a way to minimize starch intake and make switches and, still make it interesting and tasty for everyone.
Well, let's talk sort of budget cooking then. Obviously, so many people are struggling with rising food costs, and we just wanted to delve into how we can save money on our food shopping today and reduce the amount that we're throwing away as well, because basically, food waste is not only bad for the planet, but we're chucking monlike into that food waste bin, aren't we? So where are the cheapest places to buy ingredients? Would you, do Made in Hackney go to supermarkets, or is there some sort of I
know they have a fruit and veg delivery service that works in that area that can actually, and I think, don't quote me on this, I could be wrong, but I'm sure a lot of these vegetable packages they give people are free. This particular company that they or charity they work with. So, that's one way. I think it's like surplus fruit and veg from the big suppliers, and they then distribute them out to the local community.
Oh,
So that's one thing. So that's really handy. Sometimes we get some for the classes to use in a class. Sometimes we get some to give away to participants.
So I'm sort of like always in a predicament of whether I should go to my local greengrocer. Well, went really Welsh then. Sorry. Whether I should go to my local greengrocer, to Tesco because it's got the club card, or to Aldi. But my predicament is Aldi is cheaper, but so much plastic. Everything is wrapped in obviously single-use plastic wrapping. Tesco isn't that much better. But greengrocers, sometimes the ones by me anyway, they do tend to be a little bit more expensive. Pricey. I don't know whether you guys have that issue too. And then it's just like this constant sort of battle of, do I be sustainable? Do I be cost effective? Do I be, what can I do this week? It's a bit of a challenge, isn't it?
It is challenging. It's really challenging because unfortunately, until the supermarkets get on board, it's hard for us as consumers to really do the more sustainable thing.
Yeah,
we all can't afford to go to a farmer's market, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's become very trendy, but it's also become very costly to go to a farmer's market.
And it's also in the areas as well. Like my mum, she's in sort of like a very working class part of Wales, and there's, I think, maybe one sort of greengrocers sort of in the town, whereas sort of I live in Bristol on Gloucester Road, and there's about 5 that I can see from my house. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like certain areas have the luxury of being able to get sort of like plastic free vegetables, but then other parts of the people in the country that are lower on budget are forced to sort of have vegetables from Aldi, which is fine, but as you say, it's not maybe the most sustainable route.
There's you can get wonky veg box deliveries, can't you? I know Oddbox covers, I think it's mainly London, but I think there's a few popping up now, so they're quite good to look out for. What about supermarket reductions then? Can you give us any tips on when to shop for kind of like reduced food?
It depends on a supermarket. Sometimes they're there first thing in the morning as you go in, because obviously the date is that day, and sometimes they're doing late in the evening. So it's just being by chance, the luck of the draw, whether you're there in the morning and it's there, whether you're there in the evening and it's there.
Yeah.
Or sometimes when you go late in the afternoon, they're beginning to price stuff down as well.
Yeah, we've all done that thing where we're kind of like sort of hovering behind the person doing the reduced labels, and you're like, oh, sorry, trying to act normal.
That was me in uni. Whenever I was in uni and I'd see sort of the ticket person in the supermarkets buy the meal deals, I was like, is that going on sale? Can I just grab that now?
It depends on the supermarket and whether they're going to do it during the day, in the afternoon, or late in the evening.
Yeah, I guess maybe try and time your shopping if you're going like either early or later. And also I think it's important to sort of use, because it's going to be things with a short date, isn't it? So I think it's important to like actually think, how can I use this in the next day or two, rather than just grabbing stuff because it's reduced and then ending up throwing it away anyway.
Unless you can freeze it, some of the stuff you can, as long as you get it in the freezer before that date, then it's usually safe for between 1 and 3 months. So that's the other thing as well.
Do you use freezers a lot made in Hackney for things like fruit and veg? Would you sort of kind of chop loads up and package them up and freeze them?
I do it at home, not so much in Made in Hackney, because we haven't got the space.
Right.
But I definitely do it at home. Yeah.
It's a good way to sort of just keep them to hand, isn't it? Without do go off.
I've been doing it with my herbs recently, because I go through coriander like it's nobody's business. It's ridiculous. I've got such a habit. And you'll buy it, and within sort of 2 days it's already started to go wilted. And the same with dill. I love dill, and that is just the same. So stick it in the freezer, and you don't even have to thaw it out really. If you just put it in the freezer, take it out, you just start chopping it up, and it's already basically defrosted.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do that with a lot of herbs as well.
Yeah, it's a good little trick.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What about seasonal food then? Is that I mean, I think I've read somewhere before that if, you know, at the end of the aisles at the supermarkets, they have stuff on offer. Is that usually the seasonal produce because they've got a glut of it? And that's usually cheaper to buy.
Once again, it really depends, because I've found that now it doesn't seem to be seasons anymore. If you notice, the season's more in the farmer's market, not in a supermarket. Yeah. You'll see the seasons in a farmer's market, definitely. But in a supermarket, they have everything in season all year round.
Which is not necessarily good, is it?
Not necessarily, no.
It's such a shame that there's such a sort of like lack of education on eating seasonally, especially in the UK, because I think we have such a variety of foods available to us. It's just obviously knowing what is available and where. The last year I've kind of taken a particular interest in it, and yeah, it's really surprising of what stuff can actually be grown in this country. And then when you go to Tesco or wherever and you look and it's sort of made on the other side of the world, and it's just like, well, why is that not being produced here? But it's obviously just cheaper, isn't it, to grow it somewhere else and ship it and import it.
Yeah. And even this morning, actually, I just want to add, because this morning I went for my walk and I discovered 4 new apple trees in my area.
Oh, that's so nice.
Some of them literally just grown on the pavement, and one in the front of someone's garden. So I was like, look at that. And then the other day I was walking and I discovered a plum tree grown over someone's, garden. They're everywhere. In the park where I live, we've got elderberries growing. We've got pears and apples. So there is a lot around.
Yeah, I love that as well. I really love the sort of connection of sort of growing your own food and, watching it grow and then eating it. I just love that. And I think it's such a shame that we just don't have that sort of connection. And it's almost like a community feel as well, because, if you have like community gardens or whatever, it just really gets people involved.
Yeah, we've got an orchard near us that's just, you can just go in and local residents or whoever can just go and sort of help themselves to the apples and things, which is a great idea.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, growing your own, not a lot of us have the space, do we? And even if we do, it's having the time. I mean, my mum's got a huge garden and, even she struggles with like keeping up with it all. I think she planted a load of, can't remember what it was one year, but it just got absolutely decimated by caterpillars, and it's like, so there's quite a lot involved, isn't there? But there's some things that are quite easy. What are the easiest things to grow in a small space, do you think?
Herbs. Yeah. Lots of herbs, to flavour your foods with, basically. Yeah. Herbs are relatively easy in pots or in small spaces. Strawberries. Yeah. Another one, they literally will take care of themselves for a few years. Root vegetables, usually as well. Root vegetables grow quite well.
I quite like I've seen a lot of places now, I feel like it's this sort of TikTok or Instagram trend that's becoming is a good trend, I suppose, but sort of regrowing like spring onions and celery and stuff like that. I tried doing it once, but I didn't change the water, which is obviously what you need to do because otherwise it goes stagnant. So it was all very moldy, but it did work. And I think I left it for like maybe 2 weeks. So at this time, the water was disgusting. I could not eat them, but they did grow. So I've been meaning to try it again, but it's just, you chop your food up and then you put it into the compost bin and then you just forget about it. So it's just getting into that habit of being like, actually, no, I can regrow this and grow more food that I don't have to pay for.
It would be good if we could all kind of get together and do that a bit more as communities, and maybe, we could change the way supermarkets are, just producing and selling the food.
For sure.
Because I see that we're more interested in actually how it's grown and how it's, prepared and presented as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. I love that. Growing your own food from food scraps. That's brilliant. So what about bulk buying then? It's usually cheaper, isn't it, to buy in bulk? I mean, I know not everyone has the storage space, but it's surprising how much sort of junk you keep in your kitchen cupboards. And actually, if you just took out half of it and actually sort of thought, am I using all this, 20,000 Tupperware pots, or a juicer that you had for Christmas 5 years ago and have never used. I mean, where would you suggest bulk buying food? Things like, chickpeas, like dried foods and
I'm fortunate because I have a co-op not far from where I live where it's staffed by volunteers, and you have big massive bins, and you can go in and weigh yourself like from 100 grams to a few kilos depending on what you're getting. So they have now got kind of bring your own, but they're quite pricey, the bring your own shops now, where you go and like you bring your own glass containers or whatever to fill them up. But this particular one, it's been going for like 30 years, and they only charge a small percentage to keep the space running. So the other thing is once again community. You get a co-op going, and then you all kind of come together. Someone's got the space, you come together, and could Infinity and Suma, you can get a lot of stuff from those places if you have the space to store it. And then you can then have maybe 10 of yous coming together and buy in bulk chickpeas and lentils and whatever type of thing you're into, dry goods, or even your fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. I often think that when you've got like, I don't know, like a big celeriac or something, and you're thinking, how am I going to get through all this in the next week? And you sort of think, I need to, like, if I just sort of spoke to my neighbour, we could just go halves and use our feet
and share it.
Do you want to share the celeriac with me?
But my neighbours do that. They, they're often, some of them grow their own veg, and they'll say, I've got 20,000 courgettes. As everyone always seems to have courgettes, don't they?
Yeah.
And it's like, do you want some? So yeah, I love that idea of sort of community kind of co-op type thing.
We should be going that direction, I think, if we really want to talk about sustainability and kind of the future of food.
Yeah,
really.
Definitely.
I was just going to say about sort of like canned peas and lentils and beans and stuff versus dried. Is there sort of any nutritional differences, or because obviously, as you say, unless you sort of have a co-op that's sort of community led, a lot of these kind of like what do you call them?
Zero waste stores, they can be a little bit pricey as well. We have a couple here, and they're obviously tailored towards the more sort of like middle class areas, and they are just a lot more pricier in general. So people are just using canned goods. Would you say there's any sort of any nutritional differences between those?
I mean, a lot of them are usually packed in salted water.
Right. Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah. You got to look at how it's been stored and what it's been stored in as well. So that's one thing. I mean, we know that we don't want to eat too many food from a can, but once again, if that's all you have access to, then that's all you have access to.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky one.
It's finding the balance, isn't it? And just prioritizing what you can do within your means.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I think with the zero waste stores, I think it's a good idea to hunt out, like you said, Sharon, the older ones that have been going for donkey's years, not the sort of swanky new ones that are aimed at people that aren't shopping there because they, can't afford.
They have to.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's because they want to.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they're thinking about sustainability rather than sort of saving money. So I think hunt out those original kind of like pioneers that have been there forever. Shall we talk about food prep then? Because this is something that really interests me, but I just never get round to doing it. And I guess, going on from bulk buying, if you've got loads of something that you've got really cheaply, then you can kind of cook up loads of meals with it. And then how does it work?
It really depends on what you want to bulk. So I'm someone that likes to do a lot of, I cook a lot of beans at one time. So whether it be or legumes, chickpeas or black beans or kidney beans or whichever beans I'm cooking, I like to do enough to give me at least 4 portions.
Okay.
And then I will then literally put those in once they've cooked and they've cooled, I will bag them up and put them in the freezer. So I usually use good quality bags like the IKEA ones that you can rinse out again after and use a few times before they've really just start falling apart.
Yeah.
So you can just put a little label on there and say, the date that you put it in there. So you've got an idea of which one to use first.
Brilliant.
That's one of the things I like to do.
Yeah, like those plastic, they're like plastic Ziploc bags, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're good quality because they seem to last. You can rinse them out. I mean, I've had them last for quite a few reuses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd love to see your freezer. I can just imagine it all organised and all labelled up. It's like, oh, it's my dream.
It's not organised. I can say, yeah, because right now I've got some black beans on the counter that I'm about to cook later and then bag them up as well. So I do like to do a long soak. The only thing I would say, though, with beans and legumes, because some people get really funny tummies with beans and legumes and stuff, I do a long soak. Okay. I rinse them off and then I would soak them in clean water for a good 24 hours before I cook them.
Is that because of the lectins? Is that
some people
have reactions to?
Some people it's the lectins. Some people get really bloated and really like lots of digestive issues. So yeah, I'm quite fortunate I don't. But for some people, I like it. Some people have to pressure cook them as well, not just give them a regular cook.
Right.
So yeah. So that's one way to help, or bicarb soda some people put in as well, just to get rid of some of the gassy elements.
Is that, do you soak them before you cook them and freeze them, or do you soak them after you've frozen them ready?
No. So I literally, from dried, I would give them a rinse. So I'd pick out any debris that may be in there, give them a good rinse. Then I soak them in some clean water, usually filtered water, for at least 24 hours.
Okay.
Just my preference. That's my preference. Some people do 12. I do about 24. And then some people, this is where I differ. Some people say, you've got to throw away that water, put fresh water in. I keep that water and I put it on a rapid boil.
Okay.
I put it on a rapid boil for about maybe 10 minutes, then simmer it down with a couple of bay leaves or something like that, and then let it cook down to so you can literally squeeze them with your fingers to make sure they're cooked properly. Okay. And then that's how you get the aquafaba for those that do chickpeas and stuff like that. A little bit of extra ingredient there.
I love that.
Yeah. I love that too, because it's just reusing everything, isn't it?
Yeah, as much as possible.
Yeah.
I suppose you could kind of, for some people that would be like, well, what if I don't have the time? Like sort of, it is just about sort of planning what you're going to have in the week. But I suppose you could kind of like dedicate, I don't know, half an hour or whatever on a Sunday evening or a Saturday evening even. And then come Sunday, you've got, as you said, like 4 portions of beans or whatever it is to last you throughout the week. And then you just put them in the freezer, and it doesn't even have to be used that week because it can just last however long.
Absolutely. And something like quinoa as well, you can get away with cooking a batch of quinoa and leave it in the fridge, and then you can use that to make salads as well. You can quickly stir fry some of that up with some veggies or whatever you have, make a nice kind of Buddha bowl, put some beans and all different type of things. So I'd always, quinoa is something that can last quite safely in the fridge as well for a few days, definitely 3 to 5 days, Okay. Rice, on the other hand, kind of cook fresh if you can with rice, because that can be a bit, for some people, because it can create issues for some people. So always cook rice from fresh, but something like quinoa you can definitely keep in the fridge. You've got other grains as well. So like that grain is trying to come to me. Like buckwheat, it's another grain as well. A great kind of natural, gluten-free, low allergenic grain as well. So depends what you're into as well, because anything can be, you can even prep your veggies. So if you're going to be eating a lot of cooked veggies throughout the week, sometimes I'll rinse off my broccoli and just prepare that ready to go to steam in some water when I'm ready to eat it. So that might be done, in advance. Peppers, you can chop up peppers, dice them or slice them, have them ready to go as well. Yeah. So there's quite a few things you can do and kind of put them in containers or Ziploc bags in the fridge for the week.
Yeah.
So
it saves so much time, but also I think it's like, if you're in a rush, that's when you're tempted to, I don't know, I know you haven't got kids, Molly, but I don't know if you do, Sharon, or anyone listening, but I've got 2 children, and suddenly they'll be like, I'm starving, I need, when's dinner? And I'm like literally just like sending my last email of the day thinking, what am I going to cook in like 10 minutes? And that is when you end up running to the local shop that is more expensive than the supermarket because it's a convenience store, and you're grabbing pizza, which again is twice the price because it's vegan or whatever else. And, you do end up, before you know it, you've been like 4 or 5 times to these little expensive local shops. And
the time isn't actually, if you think about it, you're not actually saving that much time. As you say, if you kind of plan what you're going to eat a couple of days before, sort of spend just 10-15 minutes chopping veggies up, it's just the cooking process. And if you're not, obviously when you're not cooking meat, you're not spending however long ensuring that the meat is cooked or whatever. So in fact it's more or less around the same time, and so much nutrition.
Do you know what it is
really smug?
I think what it is for us is the preparation, because there's so much to do. If you could just find a way to, like, a pre-prep and have, even in the morning before you're doing whatever you're doing, see that pizza you were just talking about, make your dough in the morning, make that dough first thing in the morning, then later on it's just a matter of rolling that dough out and then putting your toppings on, and you get a nice fresh pizza for a quarter of the cost.
Yeah.
Can you come and do it for me, Sharon?
Can you come and do it for me? No, Ollie.
Just to add, that dough will last in the fridge for quite a few days, and the more it ferments, the great, the more depth of taste you get. Plus, you can freeze it.
Okay.
Plus, you can freeze the dough.
God, I need to do all this. This episode is basically just aimed at me, isn't it?
I think it is.
Well, going back to beans, I mean, they're so good because they're cheap and they're filling, aren't they? That's the other thing. Like, I know, we were in the middle of the school holidays. So if you have got children, it's every 5 minutes. I'm hungry again. And I'm constantly thinking, like, you need things to keep you fuller for longer, because ultimately that's going to save you money, because you're going to be buying less food shopping. So can you sort of suggest any good meals? I mean, I'm thinking sort of, pasta, beans, things like that. What are good meals that are going to sort of fill us up but also not cost too much?
So obviously you can make the latest thing people are doing now is turning their chickpeas into tuna.
I love that. We're a big fan of chickpea tuna on here.
We really are.
A sandwich. So you can fill that up with different bits and pieces as a sandwich as well, obviously. I mean, you've got think about like pittas, get good quality pittas and fill that up with like some hummus and some different types of salad bits, etc. Then stir fries. Definitely, if your children into veggies and like veggies and stir fries, you can do that with either noodles or do that with rice, like some fresh rice you've cooked, and then just throw that in there as well. I would look at what they're interested in and then try and create and snacks as well, because hummus with a few like cucumber sticks or carrot sticks and some olives and stuff, that's usually quite a great way to keep them filled up for a few hours while you're trying to make something. As well, stuff like that, nothing too fussy, but
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sharon. I think hopefully that's given our listeners some really good tips.
It's given me loads of tips.
Yeah, I know. I'm off to get those IKEA Ziploc bags. But I think it's all about organisation, isn't it? And just perhaps making a meal plan for the week, so you're not tempted to just rush out and, it's just, planning ahead. So, and anyone listening, head over to Made in Hackney and find out more about what they do, because it's it's amazing the things that you're doing in the community there.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Hopefully you will start making your dough in advance and just banging out those pizzas with the
I will.
I'll make sure she does.
I'll set my alarm for tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Start cooking.
Most of all, have fun with the food, with the cooking.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. It's just about sort of getting people excited about food and like learning it all. And I think especially if you have kids, not even kids, just anyone, just kind of getting creative with it and just finding what you like, and not sort of doing things because this is what people are telling you to cook. Just do what you love and
absolutely
go from that.
Well, I hope you got lots of ideas from this episode. Don't forget to tune in next week when hopefully we will be joined by Katie Bescow if she's recovered from COVID by then. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also head over to veganfoodandliving.com to keep up with all the latest vegan news.